Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Topsy and this is part 5 in rating all the SpeedDuel decks from the sealed boxes. If you haven't seen the other 4 parts, I highly recommend going and checking them out. There's going to be a link in the description below. So for today's video, we're going to be ranking all the decks from the Midterm Destruction set in SpeedDuels, and oh my god, I absolutely love this set. I remember that when the set was announced, I ended up making an entire video predicting all the decks and all the potential skills it could get, and I had so much fun when the set was announced. And honestly, in my opinion, I think the set delivered. A lot of the decks in this set were amazing and tons of fun, so I'm super excited to talk about them. But before we can get started, let's go ahead and break down the criteria we're going to be grading each of these decks. First off, we're going to be grading them based on the 20 card deck you're expected to play with. Additionally, we're going to be grading it based on the skill you're expected to play with them as well. We're also going to be grading on consistency, quality of cards, power output, and just how cohesive the strategy is as a whole. So with all that being said, let's get started. Oh, sorry, one more thing. So I'm getting really close to the 300 subscriber landmark, and I would love to hit that very soon. So if you guys could do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button, that'd be very much appreciated. Alright, again, thank you, and let's get started. Alright then, so starting off the list, we have Jaden's Neo-Spacian strategy, and funnily enough, this is the first time Jaden's getting a genuinely good deck. But where exactly does it go? I think it's somewhere in B tier. Honestly, I think it's like high B tier, which is crazy to say since it's a Neo-Spacian based deck. Let's talk about it. Alright, so as I said, this is a Neo-Spacian based deck, and it's surprisingly well constructed. We have awesome cards like Elemental Hero Neos, which non-ironically is a great piece in this deck with the skill that Jaden has access to, but we'll talk more about that once we get there. Additionally, we also have awesome cards like Elemental Hero Neo Alias. Card Trooper and Dandelion are 2 insane cards in this deck. Card Trooper just being able to get huge off the effect to mill 3. Not only does it set up your graveyard, but also it gives you a large monster on the field, and if he ever gets destroyed by battle, it draws you a card, which is ridiculous. Oh my bad, not even just battle, it's just destroyed in general. But besides Card Trooper, we also have Dandelion, which is a ridiculous card, and one of those cards that I was hesitant whether or not it would ever come to the game, because when this card gets destroyed, or just sent to the graveyard honestly, it just summons 2 fluff tokens, so this can give you multiple turns of protection until you can get your strategy going. Cross Border is kind of like a whatever card. I don't love it. It's, you know, it's a Neo-Spacian card. But speaking of, we have the Neo-Spacians. The gang's all here with the exception of Flare Scarab, which is weird. But they all have different levels of versatility. Neo-Spacian Grandmo being by far the best one and a godsend for this deck. This card is phenomenal. But then the rest of them kind of fall down in usability. Aqua Dolphin has niche applicabilities, specifically when paired up with Elemental Hero Neos in the skill, just be able to get hand information and rip a monster out of your opponent's hand. Air Hummingbird, surprisingly enough, isn't the worst card, especially turn 1, being able to normal summon it and just gain a fat 2,000 life points. It's pretty funny. Dark Panther and Glow Moss, these cards, they're weird. They're necessary, but they're weird. Moving on to the spell cards now, we have Neospace, which is a kind of necessary field spell for the deck, but honestly, it's not even that bad just because the skill is really good. We also have Generation Next, which surprisingly enough is pretty decent. It was one of those cards that I had to be sold on by playing with it, but it's surprisingly decent, especially in sealed environments. Oh, Oversoul is really nice, specifically because Alias and Neos are both vanillas in the graveyard. Contact Gate, I still don't like this card. It's whatever. Convert Contact, surprisingly enough, if you open this, is insane. Ian Shuffle is amazing, and Galaxy Cyclone is phenomenal backward destruction. So the spell lineup is really solid, with the exception of like Contact Gate. It's like a little weirder, but it's not even the worst card ever either. Moving on to the trap cards, and I absolutely love the trap cards. Next is a really good trap for the deck, just be able to set up fusion plays if you really want them. Hero Blast is amazing, specifically with the Hero Alias and the Elemental Hero Neos. This card goes crazy with them. And Limit Reverse allows you to bring back cards like your Card Trooper or your Dandelion for multiple recursion plays, which is insane. We also have the extra deck for the deck, which is, there's only one dud here. That of course being the Brave News. You cannot make this card in this deck, which is weird why they have it here, but you know what, we won't question it. And as for the other Elemental Hero fusions, they're all pretty decent. Aqua Neos being able to rip a card out of your opponent's hand. Glow Moss is pretty cool. Not only does it let you draw a card, it also has a special effect based on what you draw, which is very nice. Dark Neos is more niche. Grand Neos is really good, and Storm Neos is, well, it's Storm Neos. I'm not a huge fan of the triple fusion monsters, but they're okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about the skill, and as I've been hyping this up for quite a bit, and it is a doozy of a skill. The skill's name is Straight Added Neospace, and it reads: if only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon one Elemental Hero Neos from your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, you can't special summon except Elemental Hero or Neo-Spacian monsters. During the end phase, if a fusion monster you control is returned to the extra deck, you can special summon one Elemental Hero Neos from your deck. So, this skill does pretty much everything you want it to do. It makes Elemental Hero Neos in hand not be a brick, just being able to summon him easily. And if you have another Neo-Spacian in hand, you can go ahead and do your fusion plays, which is awesome. Not only that, but it also fixes one of the glaring issues of the deck, being that they shuffle themselves back into the deck during the end phase, which is a horrendous idea they had when they created the deck. It baffles me to this day. But the fact that it gives it the ability to return your Neos back to the field is amazing, giving it a pseudo Gladiator Beast effect, which is awesome. Elemental Hero Neos is always the hardest card to get back into the field, and to have a special summonable Cyber Dragon essentially in your deck is amazing. And not only that, but the one issue that I do have with this deck specifically is that this is kind of designed as a going second strategy, just because your skill requires your opponent to have a monster on the field in order to do anything with your Neos. But honestly, that's me just nitpicking at that point. Phenomenal skill, really solid deck design, and the main thing keeping it down, in my opinion, is the Neo-Spacians themselves, which isn't really the fault of the deck, just because it is a really bad strategy, but they made it work and it worked phenomenal. Honestly, I low-key want to say it's better than the Dark Magician strategy. And you know what? No, I'm gonna double down. It's better than the Dark Magician. I love this deck. Call it my bias, but yeah, we're gonna put it at top of B tier. Alright then, so next up we have Sartorius with the Arcana strategy. And yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm thinking it's like a D tier strategy, which is crazy to say, honestly. Shit. Is it D tier? I think it's actually D tier. Oh my god. I'm sorry to anyone that's a big fan of this archetype. It's not good. It's really not good. Let's talk about it. So, Sartorius ended up getting his famously Arcana Force archetype, and here's the thing. The Arcana Force archetype is one of the worst designed archetypes I've ever seen. They're all based on coin flips, and their coin flip effect is a non-optional coin flip. It's pretty much on summon, they activate their effect. The best thing this deck has going for it is Arcana Force 0, the Fool, just because you can set this monster, and whenever your opponent attacks into it, they're just not able to get rid of it, which gives you multiple turns to try and do anything. But even then, the deck isn't going to be accomplishing all that much on its own. I mean, it has some cool stuff going on for it as well. Like Arcana Force 11, the World, is an interesting boss monster, just because if you are able to get its effect going, you essentially just end up winning the duel, but it's a 50-50 chance if you get it, if you're able to do it. And at that, it's not even that easy to summon. You have ways to summon it, but it's not super easy. My main issue with this deck is the fact that it's a coin flip based deck where the positive effect is mediocre, and a lot of the times the detrimental effect is like horrendous. It's like really, really bad. Let's take an example, the Chariot, where its positive effect is that when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon it to your side of the field. That effect is not half bad. I mean, he could have been larger to make it easier, but it's not even the worst effect. However, its negative effect is you give control of this card to your opponent. You just like, you minus yourself really badly. Or let's take as an example, the Empress. Empress is one of the best ones in the deck, that whenever your opponent summons a monster, you're able to special summon an Arcana Force monster from your hand, essentially making it easier to summon cards like the World. But if you get Tails, each time your opponent normal summons or sets a monster, send one card from your hand to the graveyard. See what I'm saying? A lot of these effects are built way too balanced. But besides that, we also have Temptress, which is a hand trap. You're not going to tribute summon it. I doubt you're doing that. The Moon, it's whatever. And the Light Ruler. A lot of the normal summonable cards in this deck you don't want to normal summon just because their effects make you really like flinch at the idea of doing so. And it's just really poorly designed. Once we get to the spell cards, they get pretty decent, honestly. Arcana Reading is a really nice piece of support for the deck, but here's the thing. If you don't have your field spell face up on the field, you have to coin flip for the effect to add an Arcana card from your deck to your hand, which is ridiculous. And if you fail that coin flip, your opponent adds any card from their deck to their hand. Cup of Ace is really cool. If you're able to pull it off, you draw 2, but if not, your opponent draws 2. Then we get non-Arcana cards, which are really nice for the deck. Valhalla is very nice, just allowing you to cheat out your fairy monsters. The whole deck is fairy, so very, very useful. And Fountain of the Sky, it's whatever. It's not swaying me either way. And as for the trap cards, they vary in usability. Arcana Call is funny, but it's not selling me on the deck. Reversal of Fate is a downright embarrassing card because the trap card is recognizing just how bad the strategy is, that it's saying, hey, if you mess up your coin flip, you get the proper coin flip, which is funny, but it's kind of embarrassing, I'm not gonna lie. Divine Wrath is genuinely a good card. Order of the Emperor is a card that confused me in the deck just because you're negating your own effects with this. Which, you know what, actually, this is not ironically really good in the deck. No, oh my god, that's horrible. Okay. If you have your face up ordered by the Emperor, you're pretty much able to bypass the negative effect of your Arcana cards and then draw a card at that. That's kind of funny, honestly. Oh my god. Oh, this deck is so bad. And Inverse Universe is whatever. Holy shit. This deck is bad. Alright, let's talk about the skill. So the skill that Sartorius gets is actually one of the best skills in the game right now, which is funny to say. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets hit in the future ban list, but that's a topic for another day. So, the name of the skill is Destructive Fate, and it reads, during your turn, when you would toss a coin or coins for the effect of a monster or spell, once per turn for each of the card types, you may lose half your life points to declare the results. Instead, during the end phase of your third turn, flip this card over. So, this is an incredibly powerful skill that has been getting abused a lot lately in the meta. However, in this deck, it's not as good because you're going to be paying half your life points to activate a mediocre effect most of the time. And or whenever you get lucky in good hands, resolve the effect of Cup of Ace. But my main issue with this deck specifically in this skill is that for one, you're losing hella life points for a deck that's not going to be doing much. And for two, even if you do resolve the effect of a card like Cup of Ace, you're not getting all that much out of that Cup of Ace because you're drawing into a lot of bad cards. So, it's weird. And here's the thing, I feel like a dick talking so much shit about this archetype because I know it is a fan favorite, but the deck is just really, really poorly designed, and it would be higher tiered, it would be like a C tier strategy in my opinion, if the downside effect weren't as detrimental as they are. And honestly, I can't for the life of me put it above D tier because of that. Yeah, no, I think that's the best I can do for it. Alright, we're on to the last two decks, and whew, this is a doozy. Here we have Tyranno Hassleberry and his dinosaur deck, and this is an S tier strategy, but where in S tier? Is it better than Vampire? It might be better than Vampire, but I am biased about Vampire. I'm gonna put it behind Vampires for now, but so I can refresh myself on what this deck actually has. Alright then, so Mr. Dino DNA's strategy is, well, dinosaurs, and it's a hell of a good strategy. We have the boss monster in Ultimate Tyranno, which is a really oppressive card if you can get it going. Sauropod Brachion is a funny card, not ironically. It is at least a very easy summonable card by just tributing a monster. You're able to get a 3k defensive body on the field, which is pretty cool. Sabersaurus is a phenomenal normal summon, just being a large monster. Animadorned Archosaur is a really interesting card just because it's able to enable quite a bit. Baby Ceratosaurus takes a bit of setup but is a very, very powerful card. Black Velocity is pretty cool. It's just the dinosaur version of Steamroid, which is never bad. Tyranno Infinity is a lot more tricky to activate but has the potential of being very, very good. Destroyosaurus is just If you don't need its effect to search out Jurassic World, it's just a very nice normal summonable monster. Dino base is huge for the deck, just being able to not only special summon itself to the field, but also it's able to enable fusion plays, which is very, very nice. Dr. Ceratops is a phenomenal, easy tribute summonable monster, and Gillosaurus, just a all-around good monster. It makes a lot of your tribute plays a lot easier to enable. So yeah, the monster lineup is very, very solid. Moving on to the spell cards, they aren't that bad either. Big Evolution Pill is phenomenal for the deck, just being allowing you to summon a lot of your big dinosaur monsters a lot easier. And this card is actually, it's really, really nice. Tail Swipe is insane once you're able to enable a dinosaur on the field. Just being able to bounce multiple monsters back to the hand, this lets you go in for game a lot easier. Fossil Dick, phenomenal for consistency. Jurassic World is just very nice in order to just allow your beatdown strategy to flourish a lot better. And of course, Space-Time Transcendence is a really nice card, not only because it's enabling the effects of your Tyranno Infinity, but it also allows you to go ahead and cheat out some of your bigger dinosaur monsters from the hand or the graveyard. So that's really, really nice. Moving on to the trap cards, they're not half bad either. Typhoon's a very interesting form of back removal. It's not my favorite just because it only targets face-up cards on the field. The main thing that it has going for it, in my opinion, is the fact that it is able to be used from your hand the same turn, which is really, really strong. Survivor's Instinct is a really nice card as well because it also enables your Tyranno Infinity, which is, again, really, really good, and it gives you life points at the same time, which is, that's cool. Volcanic Eruption is a really interesting card, in my opinion, just because it's able to nuke the field, and if you're able to pull this off with a card like Baby Ceratosaurus, you can get just massive advantage out of it. So I like it a lot. It does take quite a bit of setup, but it has a very worthwhile effect. Paleozoic Canadia is insane. It's ridiculous that this deck ended up getting it. One of the best paleos, in my opinion. Really good card just because it's just another Book of Moon, and we know how good that card is. And finally, Dynatank is a really cool and interesting boss monster that I never saw coming. Just being one of the most generic boss monsters the deck could have gone, just requiring a machine monster, that being your Dyna base, and any dinosaur. So that's really, really cool. The main issue this deck card has is the fact that it's going to be taking the attack of whatever dinosaur you use. So the usability of that does vary quite a bit if you're not using your ultimate Tyranno, but nevertheless, not a bad card. Alright, now let's go ahead and talk about that skill. And yeah, the skill that Hassleberry gets is a really nice skill. His skill in question is Food Chain, and it reads, once per turn, you can apply one of these skills. Destroy one dinosaur or reptile monster you control, then special summon one dinosaur monster whose level is one higher from your hand or deck, which is a really, really nice effect. The main issue with this effect, in my opinion, is that the deck doesn't have any level 5 monsters, so you're not able to bring out cards like your Dr. Ceratops, which does suck. So this effect is not going to enable any of your higher level dinosaur monsters. At least this part of it. So do keep that in mind. And additionally, it doesn't enable the effect of Baby Ceratosaurus because it's being destroyed via the effect of a skill and not via a card effect. I believe that's like one of the distinctions they make. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section below, but I believe that this skill in itself does not enable Baby Ceratosaurus. Alright, but let's continue to the other part of the skill. It reads, you can tribute one dinosaur monster by banishing 2 dinosaurs and or reptiles from your graveyard instead of tributing. This is still treated as a tribute summon. And I absolutely love this part of the effect. Just because, for one, later in the duel, whenever you have multiple dinosaurs or reptiles in the graveyard, I think the whole deck is just dinosaurs, honestly. Being able to banish your dinosaurs in the graveyard in order to tribute summon any of your dinos is really, really nice. Not only that, but again, I keep on bringing up Tyranno Infinity, which is, again, a really cool side strategy this deck has. And the deck is doing a really good job of enabling that strategy also. All around, yeah, this deck has a lot of power output. It has really destructive effects, and the ceiling is very nice. However, I still do think that the vampire strategy edges it out just a bit, just because it's able to enable its boss monsters a little bit easier, and I think it has more versatility with the cards it has access to. Alright then, so last deck up we have is Mr. Jim Crocodile himself with his fossil strategy, and you know what? I'm gonna say it. I think this is top of S tier. This is a really, really good strategy, and I'm honestly kind of surprised that we actually ended up getting fossils in speed duels. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Alright then, so as I said, Jim has the fossil strategy and it has access to some pretty crazy cards. Starting off the list, we have Gaia Plate, which is a fairly easy special summonable pseudo monster that just requires you to banish 2 rocks in your graveyard to special summon it. And it has a very nice effect in when it declares battle, it's able to cut the attack and defense of whatever it's attacking in half. But yeah, however, this card isn't perfect just because you do continuously have to have maintenance cost in order to keep them, so that just kind of suck. Moving on, we also have Fossil Dino, a card that I think is ridiculous that's in speed duels. I don't think this should have been printed, but we're here now, and this card alone shits on a lot of decks that are very heavy on special summoning. Moving on now, we also have the fossil cards themselves, those being Flinch Cragger, Shell Knight, and Weathering Soldier. All 3 of these cards are great on their own regard. Flinch Cragger and Shell Knight are really cute in the fact that they're able to inflict 500 burn damage to your opponent, so that adds up really fast, funnily enough. But Flinch Cragger, additionally, if it's special summoned, it allows you to send a Fossil Fusion from the extra to the graveyard, which is really strong. A lot of these Fossil Fusion cards have really good effects in the graveyard, and not only that, but it also allows you to enable Fusion plays with Fossil Fusion, which is really good. Shell Knight, whenever it's destroyed by battle or card, it just leaves the field, it's able to add your Gaia Plate to your hand, which is really cool. Weathering Soldier, in my opinion, is the best one of the bunch, just because whenever it's destroyed, or just by any means, it's able to add any card that mentions Fossil Fusion in its text, and that's quite a few cards, which is really good. Also, it has a 2 attack stat, which is not half bad. Moving on, we also have cards like Revival Golem, which has a really neat effect that when it's sent from the deck to the graveyard, it's able to either special summon itself or add itself to the hand, which is really nice. And it's not even the worst card to have access to in your hand if you draw into it, just because it has a very nice defense stat. Last cards I want to talk about are like Fossil Tusker and Medusa Worm. Fossil Tusker is just a really nice non-summonable body on the field that also burns your opponent whenever it destroys something. And Medusa Worm, if it's left unchecked, is just able to just tear apart boards, which is really funny to say. Personally, myself, I'm not a huge fan of cards like Big Tusk Mammoth and or the Mega Rock Dragon. More specifically, Big Tusk Mammoth, just because it's a beast and not a rock, so I don't like that at all. And Mega Rock Dragon is just Diet Gaia Plate, but you know what, we'll take them. And now we have the spell cards, and oh my god, so many of these cards are really good. Starting off with Time Stream, a phenomenal piece of support for the fossil strategy, just because not only does it allow you to go ahead and go into your higher level fossils, but additionally later in the duel, it's able to just revive one from the graveyard under the condition that you banish another one. But just being able to have this sitting in the graveyard is insane. Pot of Avarice is one of those cards that I'm iffy on, just because getting 5 monsters in the graveyard isn't the easiest thing, specifically in this deck, but if you're ever able to like resolve it, is a really nice card. Refusion is really nice, especially when paired up with Time Stream. Getting multiple Fossil Fusions on the field is really strong. Mystical Space Typhoon is ridiculous. I genuinely didn't think we were going to be getting this card this early on, just because it is undoubtedly, undisputed, the best type of back removal currently in the game. And of course, Foolish Burial. The deck has so many cards that rely on the graveyard. This is just a phenomenal card to add into it. Moving on to the traps now, and there's a lot of really good cards here. Sakuretsu Armor, insane. Release from Stone is ridiculous too, just because you're going to be banishing quite a bit with this deck, and be able to just revive your cards, really strong. A Fate Plan is funny. It's not even a bad card because you have cards that you want to set, specifically like Medusa Worm or whatever. Blasting Fuse is a really funny card. I'm not going to say it's good, but it's very funny. And Spiritual Art of Kurogane is interesting for multiple reasons. For one, it's able to enable some of the effects of your fossils whenever they're special summoned, like for example Flinch Cragger. But for two, getting any of these guys in the graveyard isn't that bad, especially whenever you're able to revive others. So there's a lot of merit in this card. And now we have the fossils themselves, and these cards they're pretty good. First off, we have Fossil Dragon YUGIOH, the boss monster of this deck, and holy shit, if you're able to enable this card, you just kind of win the duel most of the time. Because not only is it a 3500 attack monster, it does double piercing damage. This card's ridiculous. We also have Fossil Machine Skull Buggy, which is the worst one in the bunch. It's kind of like a meh card. I didn't care for the buggies themselves. I think they're all pretty bad, honestly. But what I don't think is bad is Fossil Warrior Skull Bone and Fossil Warrior Skull Knight. These two cards are ridiculous. The Fossil Warrior Skull Bone is really nice just because it's able to attack twice during each battle phase, which is a really nice effect with a nice 2000 attack body. Also, its summoning condition, very easy. Not only that, but in the graveyard, it's able to banish itself to add a time stream from your deck to your hand, which is very, very useful. As for Fossil Warrior Skull Knight, this is another phenomenal monster. Again, not the hardest thing to summon. It's not the easiest either, but you can summon it. Additionally, it has a really nice effect where it's able to do piercing damage, which is always nice. But if it ever destroys a monster by battle, it's able to make another attack. However, my favorite thing about this card is that if it's in the graveyard, it also has the effect to banish itself to then destroy one card on the field, which is one of those effects that you can just hold on to for the most opportune moments to just end up winning a duel out of nowhere. Overall, this deck is one of the most insane decks we've gotten just because a lot of these cards read as very modern cards and have really, really crazy effects. And the skill is actually really, really good. As you can see, we didn't have access to Fossil Fusion itself, the spell card. Instead, we have to rely on the skill, which is Major in Paleontology, which reads: once per turn, you can banish one card from your hand face down. Then place one dig counter on the skill, max 1. If a face of Fossil Fusion monster you control is destroyed by card effect, you can place one dig counter on this skill, max 1. Once per turn, during your main phase, you can remove one dig counter from this skill, fusion summon one Fossil Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from either player's graveyard, except for materials with specific graveyard requirements listed. This is treated as being fusion summoned with the effect of Fossil Fusion. So, yeah. I remember that when I first read this skill for the first time prior to actually using it, I wasn't a huge fan of it, just because I didn't like the fact that it had a cost in order to activate the effect of Fossil Fusion. But after playing with this deck quite a bit and having even homemade tournaments, this skill is really, really crazy. Being able to get access to Fossil Fusion is really, really strong on its own, but additionally, Fossil Fusion is a really crazy card because it's able to use materials from either player's graveyard to enable any of your fusion plays. And being able to take resources from your opponent's graveyard is insane. Honestly, if you haven't had the pleasure of playing this deck, I highly recommend it. This is one of the most insane strategies that you have access to in speed duels. And even under its very restricted sealed version of it, this deck is still really good. Not only because your opponent has to constantly have to monitor their graveyard in order to make sure that they're not enabling your Fossil Fusion at any point. And not only that, but the fact that you're able to activate it at any point, and at that, the fossil cards you're able to summon are really strong. They're really, really powerful. I think that all in together makes this skill one of the best skills in the game. And in my personal opinion, I think it makes it comfortably an S tier strategy. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section, but yeah, I think this is a undisputed S tier strategy. As to where in S tier, I think it's top of S tier, but I think that's a debate we can have in the comment section. Alright guys, and with that, this concludes part 5 of ranking every single speed duel deck. As I said at the beginning of the video, we're getting really close to 300 subscribers, so if you guys could subscribe, that'd be very much appreciated. Also, leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and in the comment section below, let me know, do you agree with the rankings of these decks? Do you think I was too mean to the Arcana deck? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. But with that being said, I've been Topsy. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.